What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Closing the Deal. I am your host, Sam Enright, and sitting across from me is my co-host, Zach Dixon. Zach, what is going on, brother? How are you?
I am doing fantastic today. We have a little bit of switch up in our routine, so it's a little bit different of a vibe today on the evening side for us.
It is, yeah. Normally we record on Saturday mornings, and here we are on a Wednesday after work. So definitely could not be further, you know, more complete opposites in this case. But I don't mind it. Wrap up the workday, hop on here, podcast for a little bit, and yeah.
I see you weren't prepared for our switch up in day here, based
No,
on
no.
based on the headphones going on around your ear or in your ear, I should say.
Yeah. I left the headphones at home. Just very used to my routine on a Saturday morning. Pack the bag up, get the headphones ready, and just used to my weekday routine as well, which is not packing the headphones up and just coming to work. My bag's already sitting there from the night before, and yeah, luckily I have headphones that I bring to work every day, so I had a little spare set ready to go, but just definitely something that gonna have to adjust for a little bit. And it's not that I forgot. I mean, I knew we were recording today, and it still just blanked my mind as I left the house. So, oh well.
Routines are a funny thing, that's for sure. You know what else is a funny thing though, too?
The way that we're wearing the same clothes today.
Indeed, indeed. Not planned at all by any stretch. Also, not October, April. So, yeah, just ironic all in all.
Yeah, I mean,
It's a nice
I had
spring
mine on
color.
first, so you just you want to be like me. I get it. You want to match.
Yeah, that's how it goes. How it goes. So, what do we got going on for today's episode? What's our topic today?
Today we're going to be talking about school districts in Ohio to look out for. This is something that if you are married, you have kids, when you're buying a house, school districts is one of those things that is, I mean, if it's not, it should likely be on your radar of things to be considering, when purchasing a home, especially if you have kids that are already in school, what school they're going to be switching to and those sort of things. And also, I guess if you're have young ones that have not yet gone to school, projecting what that's going to look like over the next several years of your life, and when your kids do come of age to go to school, what kind of schools are they going to, and that sort of thing. So um you know Zach did some research and put together a good list for us to kind of go through for you guys to just talk about the different school districts, or I guess maybe more so like top 5 school districts in here in central Ohio, based on a couple of different factors. And obviously we'll break those down for you guys, but yeah, just kind of wanted to just do a quick overview of school districts, why they're important, and just touch on some metrics that were researched by the guru himself. So
Yeah, it's gonna be a super fun episode for sure. Like you mentioned, obviously with being married and having kids, that obviously is a big factor when those types of individuals start to look for homes to buy. But I think also some another aspect of the thinking that we don't normally think about too often when we're looking for a house, is the property taxes. That's one thing that's going to be a large kind of dependent of your school districts and whatnot. And so even if you don't have kids, even if you're not necessarily thinking about the school districts in the forefront of your mind, property taxes are always something that you're going to be paying attention to when you go to buy a home. And those are usually very, very much correlated with the type of school district that you're buying into. So it definitely applies to pretty much every home buyer, honestly. Just having that information as a home buyer when you're getting out to start looking for properties to buy, it's just obviously good information all in all. So like Sam mentioned, we're going to be talking about, top 5 school districts today, and some of the criteria that we used to determine this top 5 all in all. Really looking for a high graduation rate, a performance index number, which is determined by the Ohio Department of Education. And then on the real estate side of things, looking for highest average home values. And so most of the stats that we provide here in the episode today are coming from the Department of Education's report card, the latest one in 2024. And then, on the real estate side of things, going to have a lot of information from the latest Central Ohio MLS housing report, which was published in February of 2025. So, going to have a lot of stats to back up the claims and notions of top five here in Central Ohio. So, super excited to get started for sure.
Absolutely, I love it. You even brought your sources to the episode. I mean, that's great because ultimately, if you guys wanted to go find this information yourself, it is available out there via those sources for you to go, double check our work and make sure that we're, reporting the proper information to you if you should choose.
And that's important, obviously. Just, we want to make sure that we're not just spewing up here. That's part of our a part of the podcasting content in general. Obviously we are professionals in the industry, and so, just want to make sure that we're providing good factual information. Sometimes in today's society, that's not always the easiest to find. So got to sift through some stuff to find it sometimes, but not on this podcast, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of opinions get tossed around, opinions that are, stated almost as fact in today's world. But yeah, we try to do our best, obviously, to you know, be as factual and accurate as we can, especially given the high stakes of this industry and what giving bad advice or giving bad information could necessarily mean for someone who's going to buy a house or those sort of things. It's definitely not what we want for you guys. So we try to bring as best we can and back that stuff up with actual facts. So I'm excited to kind of dive into these and learn a little bit myself. I don't have kids, not yet, or but obviously put something on my radar for down the road.
Definitely, definitely, and just a spoiler as well. We're not going to even be our high school, our school district that we went to is not going to make the list here, unfortunately. So, pretty unbiased opinion as well. It's not like we're
Yeah.
alumni of any of these specific school districts. So, I don't think our district even would come close to making the cut, unfortunately.
Oh man, they could be in the honorable mention section.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
Just for personal reasons, we'll put them down there. Hey,
For
we
sure.
turned out all right. We had
Yep.
we're all right. So
Definitely, definitely. So getting started, I'll touch on the first of the five that we're going to talk about today. Again, these are in no specific order, just the top five school districts in the Central Ohio area. So I will start with Dublin City Schools. The Dublin City Schools have three separate high schools, so Kaufman, Scioto, and Jerome. So a pretty big school district all in all. And on the 23-24 performance index, they scored a 102.9, which is not the highest in Central Ohio, but very, very close to it. They had a 98% graduation rate in 2024. And then, your average home price in the Dublin City Schools area is going to be $583,098. So all of those things combined, a solid school district all in all, and relatively new as well within the last 50 to 60 years. Obviously, is a relatively new suburb of Columbus and has grown exponentially in that time period. Obviously, getting up to three high schools. And just one school district just shows the amount of people that are living in that area, the amount of kids that are growing up in that area, and so just makes for a great place to live all in all. And then another aspect of the school districts that we'll be touching on a little bit as well is just touching on some famous alumni from each school. Jeremy Bobb, an actor, is one of the more famous alumni from Dublin City Schools. So that is what I have for Dublin City Schools. And so what's next here, Sam?
I'm actually a little surprised, given, the reputation that Dublin has that the average home price is at 580 and not even actually pretty close to the top on the list. That does take me I was a little taken back by that. So I like that fact. I'm sure obviously there's some very highly priced homes in that area, but good to see the average is a little bit lower than some of these other ones.
I would say just an opinion. This is solely an opinion, not based on fact or anything. Probably outside of 270. More northwest and kind of near Muirfield Village Golf Club and the Country Club at Muirfield. That's probably going to be the more higher priced on the Dublin side, and then coming inside of 270, there's still that kind of corridor up there near Sawmill is still Dublin City Schools. And so there is a lot of like condo units and townhome units in that area too that aren't necessarily selling at that $500,000 mark. And so
Yeah,
kind of bringing that average number down. So that's just an opinion, not necessarily based on fact, but just,
something you're seeing
for sure.
and you want to share it with the people. I
For
love
sure.
it.
For sure.
I love it. All right. So the next one is Olentangy local schools. And Zach, you'll have to let me know. I mean, because I know there's got to be at least two. Is there three, four? How many high schools do they have?
There is four now. It's crazy.
Four.
Four.
That's insane. How many were they? Is this new since we've been in high school? Like, have they added one?
Yep. So
Really?
they just built a new one, I believe, in 2021, 2022, one of the two. Last 5 years
Okay.
or so. That's Berlin. It's right on the border of Delaware, Delaware City Schools, and so yeah, they had three when we were in high school, but then they just built this fourth one here in the last 5 years.
Yeah, nice. I'm pretty sure they're pretty good at sports too, if I'm not mistaken, over that way. So
All four of them. All four of them.
yeah. So where this one graded on the performance index was actually the highest in Central Ohio. It was 104.5. So obviously I know Zach touched on that in the previous one. So that is the one that takes the crown for the best performance index. This one surprised me a little bit considering the graduation rate for Dublin was actually higher, yet the performance index is better. But I guess that's not necessarily based on graduation rate, but 97% graduation rate for Olentangy local schools. And average home price is in the same area of 584, 828. So very, very similar to Dublin. And I'm sure, the opinion probably stands relatively the same on that. I don't know on the exact area that all covers, but and then some famous alumni from Olentangy is Dan Alexander, who is a senior editor at Forbes magazine. And then Gary LaVox, who is the lead singer for Rascal Flatts.
I'm pretty sure it's Laveau, but hey.
Hey, Laveau, LaVox. It reads like LaVox. So, and hey, you guys can roast me in the chat if that's incorrect, which I should know because I listen to Rascal Flatts and I have for years. So, I can actually picture what this dude looks like.
I was gonna say,
kind of reminds me of Guy Fieri.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? He kind of looks like Guy Fieri a little bit, but yeah. If you would have told me that was his name, I don't think I would have believed you because I wouldn't have known. But yeah, those are a couple of famous alumni from the Olentangy local school area.
Awesome. So our next one is going to be Upper Arlington Schools. Again, just another suburb of Columbus, Ohio. I'm actually located within 270, so kind of a little bit different when we think about our suburbs around Columbus, Ohio. Usually we think about them being kind of outside the outer belt. Obviously, Upper Arlington is a older suburb, very recently created after Columbus was created, and so obviously that explains the proximity to the city as a whole. So their performance index in 2023-24 was 101.7, so just a little bit lower than both Dublin and Olentangy. Their graduation rate came in at the same as Dublin at 98%. But their average home price was a little bit higher. And when I say a little bit, about 200 grand higher than the last two of Dublin and Olentangy. And then, just an opinion based on that. Again, there are a lot of single family homes in Upper Arlington, and it is obviously landlocked. You can't go anywhere else. So, in theory with Dublin, they have a little bit more room to grow on the northwest side. Like they can keep going if they want to. Obviously, Upper Arlington is all built on, pretty much all developed, no new raw land to build on. And so that, in my opinion, kind of contributes to the higher home prices. And obviously, Upper Arlington schools have a very good reputation. Upper Arlington as a whole has a very good reputation as a very solid suburb here in Columbus. So when we're talking about top suburbs of Columbus, Ohio, Upper Arlington is just going to consistently be in that top three range, usually with New Albany and Bexley. Those are pretty consistently the top suburbs of Columbus, all in all. And the most famous alum that I could find from Upper Arlington is one that is pretty near and dear to our sporting careers. Is Jack Nicklaus. Obviously, one of the greatest golfers to ever live. Also attended the Ohio State University, so he's a local guy. Actually grew up in Upper Arlington on Scioto Country Club, which is located there in Upper Arlington. And then, obviously built his course out in Dublin, a Muirfield Village Golf Club. And so very involved in the Columbus, Ohio, Upper Arlington / Dublin communities all in all. So great guy all in all.
Yeah, love Jack. Love the memorial and love everything he's done for the area. I mean, I can't speak to all of it, but I know at least the golf courses that we've touched and been on, and some of the renovations and things he's done has been definitely cool. So always love Jack. Next one is Bexley City Schools. So the performance index for this one came back at 100.8, so just lower than Dublin, Olentangy, and Upper Arlington. Graduation rate, though, is the highest of the percentages at 99% graduation rate for Bexley City Schools, so that is pretty impressive. And then average home price is a little bit higher than Dublin and Olentangy. It's going to be right around 612, so you're looking at about a $40,000 on average difference there, or I guess 30, something like that, 30, 35 difference there. So, a little bit more expensive, but not quite into that Upper Arlington range, about $100,000 less than that one. So, and then some famous alumni, Les Wexner, which I'm sure most of you know, basically built New Albany, created it himself, owns the Limited brand, and, all that comes along with that. And then the other is R.L. Stein, which prior to us starting the episode, Zach did ask me if I knew who R.L. Stein was, to which my answer was no. So I just want to challenge any of you guys in the comments out there. If once you listen to the pod, if you know who R.L. Stein is, put in the comments, tell us what he's from, what he's famous from, without looking it up, of course. Because once he told me, I was like, okay, that makes sense. But if I had just heard that name again, just like Rascal Flatts, buddy, I would not have known who that was off the top. So
it's a great little prompt for the listeners there. I like that. Great little tease,
yeah,
great little drop. I like that a lot.
absolutely. Might as well see who knows what's what, because I obviously was not one of those people. So, and I don't, here's the question. Did you know prior to looking, when you just first read the name, did you know what it was from, or
Absolutely.
did you? Okay.
Yeah. I read.
Well, there you go.
Well, I participated in whatever R.L. Stein did. Whatever he did, I did as well, or I indulged. So
I see. Well, yeah, just let us know in the comments who R.L. Stein is. If everybody in the comments says that they know who it was without having to look it up, then I guess the fool is me. So I'll wear that one.
My guy. So moving on, our final school district of our top five here is going to be Granville Exempted Village Schools. So a little bit further out from the Columbus area, about a half hour east of Columbus on 161. Their performance index came in the lowest of the five at 99.5. Their graduation rate was at 98%, just similar to most everybody else's as well. But the thing that kind of takes the cake for Granville, all in all, is their average home price, which is $824,230, which is a little bit crazy when you think about it, to be honest with you, because obviously it's a little bit further away from your metro area. It's about a half hour drive. So generally speaking, people want to be, in the hustle and bustle in the area. And so having that high of a home price for a, further out suburb is a little bit crazy. All in all, my opinion on it is there is a lot more land in Granville. And so people that have their houses, there are still a lot of very, very nice houses in Granville. But a lot of the lots that they sit on are very, very large. So they're going to have, an acre, an acre and a half, 2 acres, 5 acres, 10 acres on their land. And so that obviously plays into a large role of the sales price as well. So I would say that that's, again, just an opinion. But again, you really can't find anything in Granville for less than $500,000, and that even goes into the town itself as well. And that land statement doesn't really apply in Granville as well. So very desirable area all in all.
Yeah, that one right there blows my mind more than any of the other ones on the average home price. I mean, I've always known, obviously, most of the listeners know we grew up in Newark, so just a very close neighbor to Granville. So we've been through Granville numerous amounts of times, go to the golf course over there, everything. If you would have told me that on average, everything in there selling for 800,000, I would have, let's just say I would have called you crazy, I think. Cause that's a little bit insane in my opinion, but I guess, if somebody's willing to pay it, that's what happens.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. And they obviously do have the university in Granville as well, Denison University. I would say, generally speaking, that's a pretty non-locally attended university. Like, not very many people from Central Ohio are going to Denison. I would say the majority of their student body is probably from like out of state. You get a lot of people from like Chicago, California, East Coast, New York, stuff like that. Kind of bigger cities, bigger metros, kind of come to Denison. I see, all in all. But a fun fact: a famous alum of Denison is actually Steve Carell, which is a
hmm
very funny guy, all in all, for sure. So
yeah. No, and then do we have any famous alumni from Granville High School to share with the people?
we do,
I
we
know they're
do.
curious.
Yeah, Scott Ryan is an Ohio House of Representative. So he represents, I'm not sure exactly what district, but he's a part of the Ohio House of Representatives. And then John Tavernier is a college football Hall of Fame inductee. And so those were the two most famous alums that we could find from Granville.
Love it. Love it. Steve Carell. I like that one though. But I mean, I know it's not Granville necessarily, but Denison. So,
They
but
got
that's
they,
always
they got a couple of them. Steve Carell, Jennifer Gardner. I feel like there's one more big one too.
yeah. I don't know. I know my brother did get to wait on Steve Carell. My brother used to work at the Granville Inn there, in right there on Main Street, or whatever street it is. I'm gonna call it Main Street because it's the main street of there. But and Steve Carell, I think they were having some sort of alumni get together for Denison, and they all came down to the Granville Inn, and my brother got to wait on him and meet him. So I'm sure. That was a cool experience. I mean, not for me, but pretty cool experience for him. So
Understandably so. He's been in some funny TV shows, funny movies. Obviously, The Office is the number one for sure, but
yeah,
funny guy all in all. Just his mannerisms and the way he acts. He's a funny guy.
yeah, you gotta love the dry humor. But I mean, if you're into dry humor, like, I talked to my dad about The Office. He's not a big fan, but I think it's hilarious. Like, I'm all for all of it, to be honest with you. So don't whatever type of comedy it is, most of the time is gonna get a laugh out of me.
Couldn't agree more. That's a top three sitcom in my opinion,
Yeah.
for sure. So moving on past our, top five ranking or top five list that we had for today, just want to talk a little bit about, how schools and real estate kind of coincide with each other. Obviously, we live in a capitalist society. So demand drives supply, and supply drives demand. They're very coinciding factors in our economy, and so demand for specific school districts like the ones that we talked about are obviously going to be very, very high. People want to send their kids to these school districts because they have success with graduation rate, with performance index, et cetera, et cetera. And so obviously, when you have a high demand in an area for real estate, for property, that's going to drive up the price of that real estate, of that property as well. And so, having these good school districts brings talent to work. It also brings, a lot of demand for your for your real estate as well. And so obviously with that, property taxes are going to be higher in those areas because you are now funding those school districts as well. And so you got to make sure that you're paying attention to that as well when you're looking into your home search, making sure you're paying attention to the property tax amount, as well as the school district, because it can definitely differ, street to street, block to block, neighborhood to neighborhood. So highly rated schools, like I mentioned, will just obviously lead to overall higher property values, just all in all.
Yeah, I mean, as it pertains to the property tax side of things, that's a huge one. Just in general, paying attention to property taxes because, I mean, they can definitely make or break, a mortgage payment for you when you're taking all of those factors into consideration. I always like to tell the story of how, my fiance and I were driving down one of it's called Central College Road in Westerville, close to where we live. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, I love this house. It was just a one-story ranch. It had like a big, a bigger garage in the back." And I was like, "Well, let's look it up." And it's sitting on 2 acres. Inside. I don't know if it falls on the Westerville side or the New Albany side specifically, but it's very close to both. And I looked it up, and I mean, the taxes alone were $700 a month, just for that. So I mean, that's some people's half of their rent payment, or maybe even their rent payment, in property taxes. So it can definitely change everything when it comes to, where you're purchasing your home at, and how much you're going to have to pay, for your whole monthly mortgage payment when taking into consideration those taxes, so definitely something to be on the lookout for.
Absolutely. And that kind of takes me into the next aspect of things too, and just district boundaries as a whole. Like if that property that you were talking about was maybe, 2 streets this way and was in Columbus City schools instead of New Albany schools or Westerville schools, those taxes would not be $7,000. And so you just have to make sure that you're also paying attention to that as well, looking at the actual school district map and seeing where that line is drawn. Just a fun fact, the apartment that we were living in previously before we bought our house, literally the school district line ran right in the middle of the apartment complex. So literally like one building on this side was Westerville City Schools, and then another building in the same complex was New Albany city schools. And so it's just, you got to make sure that you're paying attention to those specifically when you're buying property, because it matters a lot. Like you mentioned, it can change your mortgage payment drastically, just based on being one street over in a different school district, than the subject property on the other side of the street. And so you're just going to make sure that you're paying attention to that all in all.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. Definitely an important point and something to look out for. So,
And then additionally, too, sometimes a property may be within like a certain city limit. So it may be in a Columbus City, but you also are in Worthington schools. And so sometimes you may be paying Columbus City taxes, but you're able to send your, you know, kids to a Worthington school district or a Dublin school district. And so that would be the best of both worlds. Honestly, you're getting your low Columbus City taxes and you're also getting the higher rated school district all in all as well. So just things that you can, pay attention to when you're, out searching for your property, when you're talking to your real estate agent about your buy boxes, things of that nature. If a specific school district is an absolute need, we can make that happen for you on your MLS search too. So just all things that you should be considering when you take that home search on and get started with that.
I love it. I love it. Great information and yeah, stuff to be on the lookout for.
Definitely. Definitely. You got anything else you wanted to add?
I don't. I mean, obviously, biggest thing on my side of things. I know a lot of this kind of falls on the search for the home, and I mean, we already kind of touched on it numerous times. Is really just property taxes and just being aware of what those are and how that can impact your payment. If we send you out for a pre-approval, it's really hard to get taxes down on a pre-approval because we have no clue what property you're buying. And just like Zach said, I mean, one street could be completely different than the next street over. And so, we do try to do our best when we pre-approve clients and send them out looking for houses to, go on the higher end of taxes to just be, I guess a little bit more realistic so that if your payment does come in, if the taxes are lower, then you're happy because obviously the payment we quoted you is you're going to pay less than that, but it's just something to definitely, keep in mind and watch out for. That's the biggest thing on our side of things, as it pertains to, looking for houses and what to offer on, that's all going to come down to personal preference and what you're looking for, are you looking for the best school district? Are you looking for the best home prices? Are you looking for the lowest taxes? I mean, what are like you said, the buy boxes for you specifically? Like we went to Newark City schools. I don't think they check any of the boxes on the performance index or any of that, but the average home price in Newark is probably much less than these, and the taxes are much less. And so, those are all things to consider. So if you're not, in the process of having kids or thinking about it anytime in the near future, they always say that, you're going to sell or refinance your home in the first, 5 to 7 years of owning it. So, if that's not a, something for you in the future, why would you move to one of these areas and pay these ginormous amounts, if the school district is not something that you're really worried about? So just little things like that, I guess. But ultimately, yeah, you got to do what's best for you and make the decision that makes the most sense for you. So just something to look out for, because even some of this stuff for me is good to know. So
Definitely, definitely. And again, it's just more information you have, the better. All in all, when you get started on your search, or when you're talking to your real estate agent about your buy boxes, the more information that you can provide at that point, kind of hone in. A little bit easier it's going to be when we get that house search started, and maybe we're not going out and seeing properties that once you get in there, you realize that aren't fitting the buy box and all of those things as well. So obviously, just a lot of communication up front, a lot of work up front saves a lot of time and money and headache on the backside as well. So all in all, we appreciate you guys tuning into the best of series. The school districts that we just did here, the episode. I really appreciate all of the time, effort that you guys have put into showing love and support to the channel. All in all, channel and podcast. So just really appreciate that, and hopefully you guys continue to find value in what we're doing here. We're really enjoying getting behind the mic and behind the camera. So enjoying it a lot, and hope to continue seeing you guys on here.
absolutely, it's definitely been very much appreciated and keeps us coming up with more and more stuff to bring to you guys. So appreciate that. Again, we always say it, but if there's anything you guys have questions on, anything you want to hear about specifically, any topics, even if it's something that's already been covered and it wasn't covered in enough depth, feel free to let us know. We'd love to receive any feedback and kind of help get the stuff that you guys are looking for, the things that you feel really would help you on your home buying search, or your mortgage side of things, or any of it. So just feel free to use us as a resource and let us know.
Absolutely, guys. Again, thank you for tuning in to today's episode, and we will see you guys on the next one.
See you guys.